your head's about to explode, you know, get really angry.
Yeah. Your head's about to explode. Okay.
My heart races.
Your heart races. Yep. See people shaking their heads.
You shut down, you can't listen.
Yeah. Your mind starts to work really in a different kind of way.
Right.
The emotions start to dominate, and the reason starts to, what's the opposite of dominate? Become recede. Become quite quiet in our heads, right? So when that happens, then it's hard to continue a conversation. And I think it's a good idea to say, let's say someone says something that, or does something. Like one of the things that I know is difficult for me is when someone tries to talk at the same time and speak louder than me. That's something for me that triggers me. And it's important to say, so let's say you feel your body reacting to what is said. You feel your emotions starting to rise. What are some of the things that you can do in your conversation to help you get centered again on having this conversation? Mm-hmm.
You can let the person know in a non-threatening way that that was a hit for you. In the past, I've said things like, "Oh, that was quite a statement." You know, I mean, just not really to engage the person yet in why did you say that, as was mentioned before, but just to let the person know that that was over the top of what you were expecting, I suppose.
Yeah.
My mother had a wonderful way of saying, "Excuse me?"
I need to hear it.
What a person a chance to think about what they said.
This woman said that her mother used to say, "Excuse me." "Excuse me?" Like that. So yeah, I guess the purpose, it's good to sort of say, what is the purpose of what we're trying to do? And I guess I'm thinking about how do we compose ourselves again? And what can we say that actually will feed into this idea of building understanding and not lead to escalating a conflict? Did you want to say something, Kathy?
I think two things, you sort of take a deep breath.
Yeah.
And the other is sometimes when I get in that situation, I'll say something like, let's rewind, or let's start that over. Like, let's go back a couple of steps and then start the conversation over.
Mm-hmm. Great. And there's no one way, as someone said before, there's no one way to handle any situation. You're all going to handle it in a way that's most comfortable for you. It could be a moment of silence. It could be acknowledging that something that was said was difficult to hear. It could certainly be taking deep breaths. And it can also be, for me, talking to myself. So let's calm down for a minute, Alan. And I think that's when it's good, too. If you feel that you're having difficulty doing that, saying, I need to just take a break. And can we come back in 3 minutes? Can you give me 3 minutes? I just need to take a break, if it gets to that point. Though I think it is very important, as someone else said earlier, that we don't want to retreat just because there's some kind of disagreement or tension, because a lot of great things can come with that. But if you're really, truly uncomfortable, it's fine to take a break. That's what I have for handling triggers. Is there more that, yeah? Mm-hmm.
Just a question on that. My tendency when something like that happens would be to address it directly.
Mm-hmm.
And your example was if someone's trying to talk over you,
Yeah.
just not let you speak.
Yes.
For you to, is
Right.
it too confrontational? Because my tendency would be to say, excuse me, but it upsets me when you interrupt me. Could we please try not to do that?
Right.
Is that too direct? Is that...
I was thinking about that in the shower before I came, and I did think an I message, which many of you are probably quite aware of, and someone mentioned earlier, is to say, I feel uncomfortable when we're both speaking at the same time. Can we agree to do such and
Yeah,
such?
just to-
That is, might be a way to reach a small agreement that would help continue the conversation without ending it right there. Mhm. Yes. Great. Yes.
Are there ever situations where a little bit of speaking at the same time can be useful?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
And it
Response.
can be
Yes.
cultural
Yeah.
Call and
also.
response, yes, I think some of that, it might help to think about ping pong, when someone has a little spin, you can return that. So it's just as a way, it's not all demonic and bad,
No.
but it's that kind of exchange.
And I didn't exactly say
Yeah.
demonic. I'm
No,
just
no.
trying to say, I'm just trying, because I am a conflict, I am a mediator. My husband says, my wife thrives on conflict.
Yeah.
I do actually like being in the middle of conversations where people disagree. But in addressing this group, I also tried to think, how do you help people feel safe? If, for instance, it reaches a point where they're not comfortable. But I do think it's important, if you're gonna have a rich conversation, if you wanna know my philosophy, I'd say bring it on. But there are limits. Everybody has their limits, and they should feel comfortable when there is a limit to say, I'd rather not answer that question, or that's too personal for me to answer. It's okay to say that kind of stuff too. Yeah.
I'm a high school teacher here in Providence,
Uh-huh.
and just from experience, in the most non-threatening way, the only thing I would say is something like, that really hurt, and I want you to know that. Or something like that, but if you do something like, excuse me, could we not do that?
Yeah.
That in itself is threatening. And then you set up a power struggle, and no one wins that. So, it's,
Well, that's a helpful suggestion.
yeah,
And it does depend so much on the tone of voice,
yeah.
doesn't it? If you say something and it's, can we agree not to do that right now? And of course, you want to smack that person in the face, You really do. But I think, could you repeat that again?
Well,
The way you put it was,
to me, I would sort of back.
Oh,
away
that
and
hurt.
say,
That
"Excuse me,
hurt.
That hurt.
that
Or,
hurt.
So,
Yeah.
let's back up, as somebody else said. But, and I found, at least with kids, especially if, with kids, they can respond to that. Ooh, I really didn't mean to hurt him. I wasn't thinking that
Yeah.
in those terms.
Yeah.
So kind of backing away and saying, that hurt.
Mhm.
That has much more impact than the get in your face and try to beat them down.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you set that up for lose.
And everybody does have their own style of doing things. Yes.
I also think that there's something about context here. We're
Uh-huh.
not at a football game. We're not at a wrestling match.
Yes.
It is a public library.
Yes.
And I think you've worked very hard to create an atmosphere
Yeah.
where and we have people at in that place to hold the container for this to happen.
Yeah.
And it is a conversation, and it has to do with difference. Those conversations aren't necessarily always easy, but we have the larger context to fall back to and resources to fall back to that I think are very important.
I
So
agree.
it's not a slugfest.
No.
We're not at a slugfest. I mean, maybe Providence Community Libraries could do a slugfest sometime.
I totally agree with you, and I just want to say one quick thing though, is that I don't think necessarily we're talking about people who are getting loud or angry, but that, for example, we all have experienced words that are used to describe homosexuality, or to describe African Americans, or to describe Mexican Americans. Words and, I'm sorry? Or women. Words that are used even in a low-key tone of voice, that can sometimes cause a person to just have that moment of like, ouch, like that word is offensive to pretty much to me and everyone who comes from where I come from, or me and everyone of my gender. And so that's partially, we're not saying that people are going to come in ready to start berating you, but that even in a very gentle conversation, the way that someone might describe you or your ethnic group or your religion or whatever could trigger just a moment where you feel kind of on edge. And so I think what Ellen's trying to talk with us about is how do you diffuse that feeling and deal with it in a healthy way and in a constructive way. Not avoiding conflict or not, whatever, you can wade in there if you want to, but doing it in a healthy and constructive way, and healthy and constructive for you as well as the other person. Because we want you to feel that way too. Is that reasonable?
Yeah.
Very reasonable. That man in the background and then, did you want to say something?
Yes, well, worrying less about conflicts and triggers than having a real opportunity for understanding, since that seems to be the goal, and miss it. So something good is happening, and because I'm fearful of some conflict or some triggers, as you call it, I would miss it. That would disappoint me.
Yes.
So for those people who have experienced this, who have been in the books before, I'd like to get some guidance as to how to use opportunities to create understanding.
Great. That's a great question.
Yeah, and it's one that requires some thought. Can I come back to that? Can I sit here and ruminate on it and talk to that in a few minutes? Thank you. So please move forward and I'll get
Yep.
back to you.
The woman first in the green sweater, and then I see you in the back.
I just think that it's important to understand that, we're all adults and we all have our own opinions about certain things. So you might say something that might trigger that person, or they may say something that may trigger you. But I think it's important to take a step back and say that, it's okay for us to disagree on this, but is there something else that I can clarify for you about my situation or about my story? And that might be a way to help both of you move forward and get to the actual goal of what we're trying to do, which is create an open dialogue so people learn about each other in this situation.
Great, I think that's a wonderful suggestion.
And I actually think that
That's it.
a good answer to that question.
I'm also considering at my table
Yeah.
to bring things on how my people's communicated with, such as the talking feather, where the feather is passed, and whoever has the feather talks as long as they want, which makes the other people put on their listening ears. And then when that person has said what they have to say or asked the questions that they want to hear, then the feather is passed to the person who's going to be responding to that question. So I'm hoping on my table to have little things about my culture that are still alive and well and dead, that are used in our communities, that tell that I am still alive, even though some of the books in this library will say that I'm not.
That's wonderful.
With a feather, that's a great idea, actually. Talking stick.
Great. Well, I don't want to go on and talk about conflict as though that is the big major topic for this particular thing. It is not. I wanted to come and be as helpful as I could. If people had any, misgivings or they had any questions about conflict, but I think we've covered what needs to be covered. And the most important thing to always go back to is you are volunteering to do a great thing.
You are going to have a good time.
And I'm now
I know he's gonna
psyched.
check
I'm going
me
to be with
out.
my mom, who's 84, and I was thinking, I'm going to take her from Worcester. I'm going to bring her down here, and I'm going to start organizing and see if I can get some people to come, because I think it's a really fabulous thing. And I don't anticipate that you'll have troubles, but it doesn't hurt either for us to just center ourselves and say, what is the goal for the day? And how are we going to compose ourselves?
And may I add too, Amy had mentioned this, that we are going to have a volunteer introduce the two of you. You will have a name tag with your first name. Your reader will know you by your catalog title or your book title. And certainly we hope you're comfortable with a first name. We also will have name tags on the reader, so you will know their name. But I will tell you, I became a librarian 10 years ago, and I'm still in the first library I ever worked, and I right away that I could never have worked in a very serious library. I have to be able to laugh. And my director's here, I've been laughing for 10 years. No, I know it's probably the loudest person here in the library. Maybe me.
Oh,
And we smile and laugh a lot.
I can't even hear you when she's standing right
I
next to me.
was going to use. Don't even smile. We are going to have fun. And I loved your comment. This is Joyce pouting. This is, the body language. It is really important. And, when you're reading with your book, don't be afraid. Smile. Enjoy yourself. Relax. You are doing incredible work. And I am so proud of this and so proud of all of you for joining us. But don't be afraid to relax and have a good time. We have good times in libraries.
We do. And we just wanted Ellen to be here so you feel prepared. That's the only reason, not because we anticipate, but because we want people to feel prepared and ready. What I would like to ask you is, are there any questions about being a book, about how the day is going to go, anything we haven't covered yet that you need to know, or feel that you need to know?
What about parking?
Parking.
It's the worst library to have it at, quite honestly.
Thank you, Carolyn.
It is. It's the worst.
Yes.
I don't come to this library because you can't park.
It's Sunday.
Good question. Maybe Sunday.
It's on Sunday. There's actually a lot of parking around here. Yep. And as far as we know, there's no funeral next door. That would be the only issue.
Don't die.
We're in East Providence, so counties. And we will have a bus, I said only in Rhode Island, from East Providence to Rochambeau. So,
No, really?
There's a bus.
I am not taking the bus.
Residents to get to Rochambeau. We're trying to make transportation easier. We'll see 20, many more parking spaces for people here. So, yes, thank you to the friends groups that each of our libraries have donated to the Rhode Island Council for Humanities. We had a little teeny budget, but we were able to include a bus from the Providence.
Absolutely. And the advantage that all of you have is you're coming early. So you'll be here before the masses. So if you want to get the good spots, you can. If you want to save them for the people, then that's fine too. But whatever you like to do is fine.
Amy, we did, in your original emails months ago probably, we did mention a snow date. Do you want to go over the snow procedure?
The snow procedure, that's probably important given the winter that we've had thus far. So what we're going to do is, if they're predicting a giant blizzard again, by Saturday afternoon, if they're predicting, how they did this last one, like 24 inches, and it actually happened, which was pretty amazing, and I did not shop for milk because I did not believe them. So I was skiing over there the next day. But if they are predicting something really big the day before, then I will email or phone, depending on what your preference is, the day before. If there's nothing predicted and I wake up at 6 a.m. and the world is blanketed with snow, by world I mean Rhode Island, naturally, then I will send out an email, so please check your email that morning if you could. Or if you're a phone person, I will call you. We'll put it on our website, we'll put it on Facebook, we'll put it everywhere. The only reason, and we will put it out through PCL, through all of our various groups, but I will email all of you directly. So please check your email that morning. And if there's only moderate snow, the only reason we would have, by moderate I mean 1 or 2 inches, the only reason we would cancel is if Providence has a parking ban, because then nobody can park, and that would be a problem. So unless there's a parking ban on, or unless there's a blizzard predicted, then you won't hear from me on Saturday, but you'll hear from me early Sunday morning. But we are really hoping, and I've been watching the 10-day forecast. It hasn't changed yet. It's still 0% precipitation, so hopefully it'll stay that way. But that's how we will contact all of you. Does that work for every? I see heads nodding yes, so that's good. Okay. So that'll be that policy for snow. Any other questions? Yes.
What will happen after Sunday? Is this
sustainability?
The beginning of a term?
Yeah, we really want it to be, but we first we wanted to see how Sunday went, and then I think what we're going to see is Does it make sense to have like a big event a year? I've been in contact with Calgary Public Library, which is an amazing public library if you're ever in Calgary. And they have had the Living Library for 5 years now. And what they have is they actually have Thursday afternoons with a living book at their various sites. They have a certain time, and their human book collection circulates around and goes to the different libraries on different nights or whatever, and people can just drop in and talk to the human books. They also have a speakers bureau, sort of, where, like, for example, Calgary has a growing Muslim population. And they have a number of really wonderful Muslim folks who have served as human books repeatedly. And an elementary school and a couple of other organizations, hospitals and other places, will call them and say, we want to put a panel together of 4 Muslims, Sunni, Shia, Sufi, and the different sects, and have a panel. And so the Calgary Library has their shelf of books. They start making phone calls, and they have arranged sort of a human book speaker bureau. So we have options for sustainability, but we want to test the waters on Sunday first. But these are percolating in my little head anyway, and I would like to see what some of those options are moving forward. But we also have to be realistic.
And you mentioned the word speaker, Amy did.
Oh, right.
You will see in the program that there may be readers who will want you to come to speak to their organization, once they meet you, see you. And we actually felt a need to put it into the program that day, that we do not want them to take up that time during the loan period, but we will have a speaker request form in the event any of you would like to go out and speak to, it could be another library, it could be a senior group, it could be any type of organization. And so you can also let me know, and before you leave tonight, if you are bilingual or multilingual, please speak to Joyce. And also let me know that you absolutely have no interest in being a speaker, and we can tell the person up front. We are not guaranteeing them a speaker.
No, you're not obligated.
We would be the conduit. We would make sure you get that information.
We would just hand the request to you, and we would tell the person there's no guarantees of any kind, and you can follow up on that request if you want to. And if you don't, then toss it in the trash, and that's okay. We are not making promises to anyone about that, but we also didn't want to turn this event into people recruiting speakers, because we didn't want that to happen either. So we wanted to have a system in place in case that those requests came in. Omar, did you have a question?
How many people are you expecting?
I have no idea. So the programmers developed, a few of us in here are programmers, that's what we do, and it's terrifying when you don't have people register, because we have no idea. I can tell you that it looks like we're going to be on the road show on Wednesday morning, and I'm going to be on WPRO on Saturday morning. We were in the Projo with an article Joyce wrote on Sunday. East Providence Post is putting stuff out there. We've hung flyers and posters everywhere. Whether that actually gets people to get in their car or hop on Ripta or tie on their sneakers and come here that day, we don't know. So this is the big unknown, Omar, and I will not sleep this week probably because of that very question.
Well, Amy, it moves right beautifully into, please just put the word out among your own networks, Facebook, put it out on social media. As Amy mentioned earlier, we still have flyers here. Invite your family, invite your friends. We'd love to have you.
Is that flyer available for us online if we wanted to send a flyer?
I've emailed it to you.
You've
gotten it in every email that I've sent to you.
But only as an attachment?
Yes.
Yeah.
So in other words, the PDF, so you can't put it within the email itself.
Sure you can.
Well, I don't know how to change PDF to JPEG.
We can help you with that. We'll help
you with that.
The debriefing for afterwards too, that will be available by email. You can certainly contact us and talk with us. Also, I know there are lots of creative people in this room, and if you choose to write about your experience, just please CC us on whenever you're ready, or let us know. We'd love to have that, your feedback, but also, even as weeks go by and months go by, and you choose to write or publish or whatever about the Human Library Rhode Island Human Library Rhode Island. Please let us know, and
especially because we are accountable to Rich as well.
Right.
To the
Yes,
for
funders. We
yes.
cannot. Thank you, Rich. Thank you, Renee. This is perfect humanities programming. And, you know, we do want to thank the Rhode Island Council for the Humanities, part of the national organization. We're so fortunate that they are supporting us, as are the Friends of the Barrington Public Library, the Friends of the East Providence Library, and the Friends of the Rochambeau Library. So if you're not a friend to your library, become one.
Vajra had a question?
You know, if you don't mind resending the electronic copy.
Yep, I can send them out again, sure.
And Amy, is there just like a quick, like, text that we can, like, just text out to our friends?
Yeah, I could do I could create a quick and dirty.
Yeah, quick and dirty, what we need to just get out there to get people.
Yep, I can do that, and I was thinking I needed to tweet that out now too. I haven't tweeted recently, but I need to do that.
The question that I'm not a book, but the question that I'm receiving from people that I'm speaking to is, do I have to ask them questions? So I think folks I'm saying, no, they're a book. You're checking out a book. They have a story. So I hope I'm giving the right message.
It can go either way.
Because I think some people are kind of panicked.
We also
I have to
have
ask a
some
stranger prompts.
We-
Okay.
in
Yeah,
the program.
in the program.
I'll
And
keep talking about
tell
that.
me the story. Tell me why you chose to become a human book.
Yeah,
So it's very simple,
we
simple
have a
process.
script for people specifically for that reason. So you can say yes, they have a story, but also you will have questions to ask that will open up. the
I'll use
discussion.
that in my publicity.
Okay, great.
Thank you. Use that in your publicity.
Yeah, Wanda?
Is it okay to bring books about the subject you're talking about, or a book list that they can
Sure.
find out about it?
Yeah, sure. That's value added. I mean, don't feel pressure, okay? So some of you people are like really like performing, you know, you're bringing all these things along and whatever, but for those of you who want to do that, please do it. And for those of you who don't want to do that, don't feel pressure to do it.
She wouldn't even let me put a centerpiece on the table.
Yeah, I'm
Don't feel like you need to bring
streamlining, mainly
anything.
because I was afraid I would have to do it. But are there other questions? Because we want to be, we're getting close to the time. Other questions? Now,
They're done in the other room, so.
I'm sorry?
They're done.
Yeah, so we'll, I'll just come down there in just a second. I'll let these folks go and I'll be right down. So thank you very, very much. I really hope that we all have fun with this, and fun means all different things to all different people, but I hope that we really get something out of it. Any questions you have during the week, please contact me. I'm obsessively checking email right now for this purpose. We are happy to help you any way that we can, and I will resend out the flyer so people can send that out to their networks. Thank you again, and have a good night. And